So here we have our match. Brennan Stephan Dykman, by virtue of being the 6th seed, is going to be on the play.
6 versus 7. That plays.
All right. Good sportsman, shake a hand here. And we are off. Stephan starting off with a Plains. See if he has an Aether Vial. He does not. And we'll go over to Brennan picking up a Fatal Push. He's going to want those early and often in this matchup.
Indeed, yeah. And no Vial. That is good news for Brennan.
So in this kind of matchup, how aggressive do you think Brennan want to be with his own life total? We saw a fetch land here, but not just fetch, shock, go.
When your opponent doesn't have Vial, it makes sense to be more aggressive because you can't just take damage you were not expecting to take. Everything's going to be face up on the table. So you kind of want to get to that point, that 12 or lower life total, pretty quickly so you can actually set up. There's no reason to go fetch, shock, go, or whatever, especially if he has a Fatal Push, because that's an answer here to this Eldrazi Displacer.
Yeah, he does have the Revolted Fatal Push. Thanks to Eldrazi Temple, Stephan Dykman can make Displacer on turn 2. We see nonetheless, Brennan's going to go ahead and Thought Scour, fetch, shock, and do that. Had the option of removal, declined it.
Possibly another fetch land available.
Yeah, I would think so, because in this situation, you know, Fatal Pushing an Eldrazi Displacer has to happen. You can't really Fatal Push anything else while he's around.
Right. And the deck is full of fetch lands. There are 12 of them, so plenty more in the deck.
Thought Scouring himself. Looks like he'll be in another Thought Scour.
And there is another fetch land. A Polluted Delta is available in the hand. Looks like he's already found a Death Shadow. If he has a Street Wraith, he can make that this turn.
Yeah, something like Fatal Push, Street Wraith, Death Shadow, do it all.
You do want to get the Displacer off the table.
Agreed. And there's 2 Fatal Pushes in Brennan's hand, so I would think one of them will be spent here. Brennan goes down to what's likely 14.
Yeah, he's already drawn his basic swamp. There is the basic island in the deck, but it's not great. You don't want to show your opponent both of your basic lands in a Ghost Corner matchup. Question probably red source versus just blue-black land. Lands on Blood Crypt, though. Well, this is even more aggressive.
Okay, and then Death Shadow.
Dismember, not Fatal Push.
Okay, puts himself down to 10. That makes sense. Now he can cast the Death Shadow. And now, so Dykman will have to respond. It's going to be Blade Splicer on his side, a 1/1 and a 3/3. Another Fatal Push for DeCandio. I like this a lot.
If he had a Colon's command, that would really clean this up. But just extra Shadow plus Fatal Push is pretty good.
Yeah, he has 2 more pushes and an extra Death Shadow. You're absolutely right.
You don't even need to push just yet. Your Shadow, I guess you're at 10. You need to do 1 more damage, and the Swamp wouldn't do that.
Snapcaster Mage, Death Shadow, Swamp, and 3 Fatal Pushes in hand.
An interesting line is to attack with the Shadow, play the land, attack with the Shadow, and then if the Golem gets in the way, you can just Snapcaster Dismember the Blade Splicer.
Oh, wow. That's very aggressive. He'd go down. At that point, he'd be at 6. Does he have to worry about Restoration Angels and Flicker Wisps just killing him?
He does not have a fetch land, so yes, if he had a fetch land, it would be a lot easier, because then the Fatal Pushes would be alive against those creatures.
Yeah. The other option is just to push away the token, as it has a converted mana cost to 0. He's going to do that. Swinging for 3 puts Stephan down to just 17.
Maintaining the Snapcaster Dismember for a Restoration Angel could pay dividends here.
Okay. Then he'll make another Death Shadow. So 2 3/3s as we go back to Stephan. That Sheffet Dunes, the one of in Stephan's deck, is in play. I don't think we're going to see that one matter.
Yeah, this typically would not be the matchup for that. Might see it matter in the wrong way if it's just 2 white sources. Well, if he has a 4th land, that can make things somewhat complicated for Brennan. Representing Restoration Angel can make things really tough. Though without a Vial, he kind of just has to cast spells on his turn. It's not hard to make the Shadows larger than Restoration Angels.
Another Eldrazi Temple from Stephan.
Be nice to have a displacer with this mana available.
Yeah, absolutely, because he actually has 6 mana for Eldrazi Displacer. 4 regularly, could blink already.
Yeah, good play, activate right away, start making extra golems, and he's thinking about passing the turn. He does have a Restoration in hand. Looks like he's choosing between second Blade Splicer and Restoration Angel, and just Restoration Angel right now, which is what he landed on. Just gonna blink the Blade Splicer right now. Minimize the chance that there's a removal spell from Brennan in response.
All right, so now we will see Fatal Push take care of the Golem token. Brennan's staying at 10.
This is not a bad spot for Snapcaster Dismember. From there, you'd be attacking for 14. You wouldn't quite force a chump block with the Blade Splicer, but you would put Dykman in a very precarious situation. Brennan going to fan out his graveyard, look at the options available here.
So that's that 3rd Fatal Push in hand. Nothing that he can hit yet until he enables Revolt, however.
And you definitely don't want to lose one of these shadows.
No. So just go ahead.
Pretty into the aggressive Snapcaster line. Just dismember the Restoration Angel and shove.
And swing big. He'll swing with both. And maybe what he's trying to do is bait here. If Stephan says no blocks, he will make that play anyway.
Yeah, and if Stephan just blocks with, say, just blocks Restoration Angel on Shadow because it looks profitable, Brennan can then Snapcaster dismember the Blade Splicer.
Exactly.
That way the Blade Splicer's not around later to get blinked, which is pretty good for DeCandio.
So once Stephan declares blocks, it'll be interesting to see where Brennan goes.
The play misses some damage if Dykman just reads him for that and blocks both creatures.
Okay. But if that's true,
it's not a bad exchange.
Still not horrible, but you're right, it does miss damage.
Yeah.
Misses 7 damage. That's actually pretty significant.
It's a large number. Brennan's going to read Golem token.
It's a 3/3. It has first strike from Blade Splicer.
Right. You have to read the Blade Splicer to figure that one out. And Dykman kind of thinking, what could happen here?
Yeah, this is a big turn.
Brennan representing at least having just Street Wraith to cycle here. 3 mana up. It could be Kolaghan's Command to shock himself.
And now that you mentioned the lost damage on Brennan's side, this feels a bit fancy to me. If Stephan reads him for it.
If this works exactly how Dykman looks to be lining it up and it's just block with Restoration Angel, then it's really good for Brennan.
He says no blocks. All right, so it all ends up being the same.
Yep, that's just the same. That's fine.
We're thinking Snapcaster Dismember on Restoration Angel is going to be the play. We'll see if Brennan goes through with it.
With no blocks, you might just connect for 6, but no, he's going to get aggressive.
No. Here's the Dismember. Takes care of the Restoration Angel. Brennan drops down to 6, which means the shadows grow to 7. Stephan is down to 3.
Dykman's going to need more blockers than this.
Yeah. Back over to Stephan Dykman. Does not have an attacker of 3. He has Blade Splicer, land in hand, draws unclear. He's got something, one other option.
It's a spell.
Yeah, it's not a land. Does it save him?
He's not going to have any good attacks with that Blade Splicer. So basically just has to figure out what he wants to do defensively. And that is Path to Exile in the hand there.
Okay. Ghost Quarter played from Stephan.
Could Ghost Quarter Brennan off of the Blood Crypt, which means that you wouldn't be able to get Battle Raged out of this game.
Yeah.
But then you're kind of just on chump blocking duty. I don't really know what else he has for spells. I think Blade Splicer, Path to Exile are available. Bathing away one of the shadows makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah. That play is just kind of inevitable.
So he starts there.
It is a little bit awkward that if he wants to both Ghost Quarter and cast another white spell, it will cost him a life from the Shefet Dunes.
Sure.
He might be considering Ghost Quartering himself and casting the Blade Splicer so that he's not just dead to Kolaghan's command if Brennan produces another red source. Also, just the hit from the Snapcaster Mage is lethal if you have to use a Shefet Dunes. Looks like Restoration Angel's the other card.
Ooh, well that can have a lot of play to it. Brennan is at 6. Restoration Angel flies.
And if you cast it now, there can't be any removal spell in response.
So he's going to Ghost Quarter Brennan off red mana and make Blade Splicer.
And that's going to put him to 2.
All right, so makes 3 blockers here. Should be set. Go back over to Brennan. And still has 1 Fatal Push. Still's not, and a fetch land was the draw, so he can trigger Revolt.
Though the big creatures are less enticing targets than the Golem.
Pushes away, and both creatures have to block because Stephan used that Shefet Dunes to make white mana. That 1 life made Snapcaster Mage lethal, and that might actually cost him.
Yep. Yeah, and that's that second shadow showing up for Brennan. That might lock this up.
Yeah, Stephan draws a card, but that's not going to play here. Just 2 lethal attackers each turn from DeCandio may be too much for Stephan to get through. And actually, there's most situations, and I want to say it's a game. A lot of times you talk about how 1 Shefet Dunes is free. I do not think it was free this game.
Yeah, that, it ended up costing.
Yeah. And so game 1 will go to Brennan DeCandio. It's Grixis Death's Shadow getting it by an inch there, but nonetheless, he is up 1-0. So you shake a head on Stephan's side. He knows how close it was.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a look at the sideboards. They get ready for a second game. Brennan DeCandio is a winner in game 1. Over on our other table, it is Ben Nikolic winning game 1 as well. So maybe setting up a showdown of that in the finals. We'll talk about those sideboards when we come back after these messages. Welcome back here to our semifinal round. It's between Stephan Dykman and Brennan DeCandio. Winner goes on to the finals. Brennan taking game 1. We now move over to sideboarded matches. Now, generally that's going to favor the 3-color deck. On Brennan's side, he has a lot of options either going toward control cards or removal spells. Ryan walk through, I believe he'll take the removal side.
Yes, so we have 3 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Collective Brutality, 2 Lightning Bolt, 2 Liliana of the Veil, a Disdainful Stroke, a Liliana's Defeat, and is it Static Caster, an Engineered Explosives, an Idle Spellbomb, and a Stubborn Denial. So your lightning bolts are really the best card here. They don't answer Restoration Angel, but they clean up a lot of what's happening on the other side of the table.
Right.
Liliana the Veil has some good spots. It has some bad spots. Thraben Inspector and Blade Splicer can kind of embarrass Liliana. So that one's a little bit dicey. Could be a play draw thing. It could just be that you're off it entirely.
How do you feel about, is it Staticaster, Engineered Explosives? These are all removal spells that hit some things, not other things.
Engineered Explosives is really nice because it can clean up both Ether Vial if it matters, or 1s and 2s. Probably not usually 1s because that means it would clean up your Death Shadow, but you can pick your spots with that. Is it Staticaster? Because it hits Flicker Wisp, might be a big player. It misses on a good number of things, but it hits Thalia, Flicker Wisp, and the base Blade Splicer, which does prevent it from getting blinked with either a Eldrazi Displacer or a Restoration Angel.
It's really the Flicker Wisp, though. Those flying creatures are really strong against Grixis Shadow.
Yes.
Now, on Stephen's side, not as many options. 4 Relics, 3 Stony Silence. Don't really like any of those. 2 Dismember, 2 Blessed Alliance, 2 Forge Tenders, and 2 Revokers.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think that Relic of Progenitus is pretty reasonable in this matchup. It slows down Snapcaster Mage. It can make it so Delve threats are uncastable. That can be a player. Don't know if you want the full 4, but it can make an impact here. Dismembers are always good against Delve threats, sometimes good against Death Shadow. I'm more interested in Blessed Alliance.
As in you think it's better, or you're not as sure on that?
I want Blessed Alliance for sure.
Okay.
You can make Brennan gain life and kill Death Shadow sometimes, and the Edicts is going to line up against either of the threats in the deck.
Blessed Alliance's target player gains 4 life?
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty fun modern card.
There was a 4/4 Death Shadow, or 2 4/4 Death Shadows for a while that game.
Yep.
That could have been very nice. And we are underway. Stephen going to be on the play here for game number 2. Didn't have Aether Vial last time. See if we can get it this time. Answer, no.
That's a miss. That's a really big problem for this deck.
Yeah, and this is one of those decks where it does to me feel like it night and day when they do or don't have Aether Vial.
And so the most common comparison for this deck, any Aether Vial deck, how does it line up with Merfolk? When Merfolk doesn't have Vial, you're at least casting Lord, kind of on curve. If you have a Mirror Reachery, you can really just go off. But the functionality, if you have Flicker Wisp with Vial or not, there's just a different card.
Inquisition of Kozak from Brennan will show us what he did keep, however. Looking at the hand, we have, on 3, we have Flicker Wisp and Blade Splicer. On 2, we have the Arbiter. On 1, we have a Dismember. And then he has 2 more lands, including a Ghost Quarter to go with that land and Arbiter.
Somewhat inclined to take care of the Arbiter. That one can snowball in the worst ways.
Yeah, you don't want that Ghost Quarter Arbiter line happening.
Right.
He's going to take Blade Splicer, actually.
If there's a Fatal Push available, it does cleanly answer the Arbiter, so that is a consideration.
Another Plains drawn from Dykman. Yeah, that would to me suggest he already has an answer to it.
Yeah, especially because Brennan's second land is a fetch land, so I would hope that he has an answer for it. Yeah, Fatal Push there going to the front of the hand.
Along with Death Shadow.
Yeah, with starting on Swamp and Inquisition means he's still at 20, so.
I know, you wish it was just Fetch, Shocks, Thoughtseize, then he'd be in business.
Yeah, I really wish I could have Lava Axed myself on turn 1, but unfortunately that was not the case. Yeah, and there is Leonin Arbiter on turn 2 off the Ghost Quarter.
You kind of think in Steven's spot, you know what's about to happen here.
Right.
You know, he didn't take it. That's strange.
Yeah.
No, it's not strange. I figured it out.
This makes so much sense, and I am not happy about it.
Yeah, so Brennan, here's Fatal Push away on the Arbiter. And then, yes, he'll play a fetch land. Looks like
now he gets some
right
Thoughtseize.
away. Yeah, fetches down to 15. Thoughtseize down to 13. All right, we're setting up for our Death Shadows. They're almost there.
Interesting choice of blue-black versus blue-red here. As post-Cyber, you have the Lightning Bolts in.
I mean, so Ryan, you can take Dismember to protect your shadows. At the same time, if you take Flicker Wisp, your opponent just doesn't have anything going.
Flicker Wisp might enable your shadow. Yeah, his life total is still high-ish. Could be that he's not able to get shadows out of Dismember range.
I mean, yeah, still, you didn't take Flicker Wisp, but I like this. You know, if you leave your opponent with no threats, you get so much time.
Yeah, that is certainly true.
Draw from Dykman. Okay, draws a new threat, though. Eldrazi Displacer.
Yeah. That is one you do need to answer. That can really mess up combat.
These will be final in 2 minutes.
Displacer is cast. Brennan picks up Stubborn Denial. I guess that will be counterplay against that Dismember at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's generally kind of weak in the matchup. I would be surprised if he had more than one of those still on the deck.
I was actually surprised to still see it. And I mean, maybe when he's on the play, he can Stubborn Denial and Aether Vial, but that's not that real. Here's Gurmag Angler. Brennan spends all his mana, no third land for it.
Tapping off of the Stubborn Denial.
So that means he's just really accepting that this is going to get dismembered.
I suppose it's going to happen to something eventually. If Dismember happens here and Displacer connects, that means he can cast Death Shadow. He'd be at 12.
That's what Dykman's going to do? Actually, I'll make Aether Vial. Just leave up the Displacer activation, perhaps.
Or both.
Both. Dismember takes care of the Angler. Stephan down to 16. Out of cards, but he's hitting in for 3. Or is he not hitting in for 3? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, with the way Brennan's draw is shaped up, you can kind of read him for having some number of shadows in hand.
Yeah, a big decision. Stephan has him at 13 exactly. Brennan has no more lands. Does he want to take him lower? No, he doesn't. Just passes. All right.
I like the discipline there, but bad news.
Yeah, Brennan will force the issue.
Fetch land off the top.
You know, even in this situation, when Brennan top decking the fetch land, that probably makes it more right for Stephan not to attack. At least this way the Death Shadow starts at 3 as opposed to getting a free ticket to 6.
If it's just one Death Shadow, the Displacer can check it pretty effectively.
Right.
Against 2, though, yeah, you don't want them getting out of hand too quickly. 2 or more, I should say.
Yeah. Brennan going to fetch shock here down to 10.
It's going to be Steam Vents there.
2 Death Shadows. Go, leaving up Stubborn Denial. Now Stephan, if he can draw to 6 mana, can keep these under check. Means double colorless. Eldrazi's Displacer will work for a while.
The Steam Vents is going to look a little bit weird here if and when Brennan does not Lightning Bolt the Eldrazi Displacer. I don't know if it's going to put Stubborn Denial being in the deck in Brennan's hand on the radar, but that Steam Vents is looking really weird.
On our backup table, James Manges takes game 2 over Ben Nikolic. That one is all tied up as they head to game 3.
I was a little surprised to hear that Nikolic won game 1. It's a tough matchup.
Post board on the play, though. I think he could take this.
If you can land Elspeth, that one can be lights out.
Yeah. Dykman fighting off elimination right here. Just an Eldrazi Displacer. He's playing off the top of his deck now.
At this point, he has found Aether Vial and needs to crank that up a couple more times to have it be terribly relevant.
Thalia, Guardian of Thraben was the draw. Just passes.
Standard Classic competitor. You place between 9th and 32nd place. Going to ask you to form a single file line in front of the stage, starting with my friend Jared here, making a slight turn that way.
Blood Crypt from Brennan. He'll shock. That puts him down to 8. It pumps the 2 shadows up to 5s, and in they come.
Those attacks are easy. And with that Stubborn Denial, he insulates himself against things like Path to Exile.
Right.
But a lot of Stephan's deck is just going to be creatures. Things like Blade Splicer off the top can cause some issues. And so we have 5/5s attacking. Dykman has the option to double block, and that would trade with 1 shadow, but what is he really doing if he gives up Displacer here?
Brennan is really happy if Stephan trades his board for a shadow.
Yeah.
Also, that's risky for Stephan to even try.
Right, there could just be a Street Wraith, there could be some kind of red damage spell that Brennan aimed at himself.
Stephan down to 6 on that swing. It's going to start forcing action. He draws off the top. Brennan has 2 cards in hand. Stubborn Denial covers one of them. If Stephan has a non-creature spell.
Ooh, I think it's a second Thalia.
Well, it means he can chump block next turn, I suppose, but that is not what he wanted.
Oh, what a privilege.
He's going to swing back. Okay.
He does get to displace 1 shadow and chump block. Well, now once he's attacking with Thalia, can't really chump block the other.
Well, he's going to have to. He can violin his Thalia to chump and displace the other. He's going to have to, because if Brennan takes this damage, Brennan goes down to 3.
Yeah.
Looks like Brennan is at Snapcaster Mage and Stubborn Denial.
Don't know what he has for a graveyard. That Gourmet Gangler might be the bottom card.
Yeah, I think there's nothing. Snapcaster Mage is going to flash into play.
And that's...
You think he's playing to block the Displacer? He is. Takes 2, goes to 6. But that's low enough. Both his creatures' shadows now very well sized at 7/7. And he has the tempo advantage. So if next turn Stephan chumps and displaces, it's not enough. Go back over to Brennan's side. Draws here. Scalding Tarn. Not really going to
that one doesn't
spend
matter.
that. He's locked in. Goes for text. Swings with both. Stephan has to displace one. He is locked in here to that Vile Chump displace.
Yep. Got to do both of those things. Loses both Thalias.
He was hoping Brennan would be at 3 this turn and not at 6. If so, then this would have won.
So I can almost guarantee he did not read Brennan for Stubborn Denial, and I think he read him for having a removal spell. And because that did not happen, he's kind of in trouble.
Well, he's got Brennan at both players now at 6. Stephan has a 3-point attacker on the board. Moves his Vile up to 3. He's hoping to draw Flicker Wisp.
Without any action, that's a 3-point blocker.
Yeah, if he draws to Flicker Wisp, though, he might have it.
Yeah, that would change things.
Swing. Actually, any 3-mana creature swings in for 3 with Displacer. Brennan down to 3. Stephan, all he has to do is displace one shadow and chump block the other, and he'll get this.
Yeah, Brennan's hand is all air.
Says go. Go to Brennan's side. Does it work or not? Can he? Did Stephan draw the card he needs? Colican's Command picked up, though, by Brennan.
You can make Stephan discard that card in response to a Vile activation.
Yes,
that should
that's
seal
huge.
the game.
That's huge. Okay. Swings both. Stephan will displace one, and as soon as he taps that Aether Vial, Brennan's going to get him.
Yep. Yeah, Brennan just has
Places
to see it,
one.
and he's not one to miss these things.
Tap, or how about Path? But
Stubborn
Stubborn
Denial.
Denial has it. Brennan is going to 2-0 take the game and the match over Stephan Dykman. And there was no way around it. If it was a removal spell, the Denial had it. And if it was a creature for the Aether Vial, the Colican's Command had it. Stephan was drawing dead.
Brennan looked a little silly when he drew the Denial at first, but it came in clutch there.
And well played there for Brennan. DeCandio